We're learning far more about the aftermath of Kyle Richards and Mauricio Umansky's separation in the latest season of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And that also includes seeing how Kyle's castmates reacted to everything that happened. For Garcelle Beauvais, watching them just made her sad. Garcelle opened up about her reaction to Kyle and Mao's separation and subsequent interactions when she guested on Watch What Happens Live. She was asked how she felt watching Kyle and Mao's discussion when the Greece airport photos came out, and if she agreed with Kyle that there was no coming back from that. Garcelle Beauvais didn't like seeing Mauricio Umansky hug Kyle Richards on RHOBH. Garcelle didn't hesitate to answer. I don't think they can come back from that, she admitted sadly. That was so hard to watch. And she's right, it was pretty painful. The conversation in question was the one Kyle and Mao had after photos of him kissing another woman in Greece came out. The woman in question turned out to be Nikita Khan, who he dated for a few months. And fans of RHOBH got to see the aftermath of that photo come out and how Kyle reacted. It wasn't pretty. On the show, Mauricio came over, and they had an awkward conversation about the photo in their kitchen after Mao had skirted around it for several minutes. He finally said, "You know that I would never want to do anything on purpose to hurt you or the kids. I really am sorry for hurting you. I would never want to hurt you on purpose." Kyle tried to play it cool. She reiterated that they were both single and allowed to do what they wanted. And while she tried to pretend it didn't hurt, she couldn't help but cry. Mao moved over to hug her, but it just seemed to make the whole thing even worse. Garcelle is right. It was sad to watch, and every time he hugs her, I almost feel like it's a pity hug, Garcelle added, and it makes me sad. I hate to see her crying and him hug her. It just feels like, I don't think they're gonna come back. And I know her family's really important, so it makes me sad. She is right, though. It doesn't look like Kyle and Mao can come back from that and everything that has happened since, including Kyle's inexplicable friendship with Morgan Wade, Mao partying with Anita, or even his mystery brunette just recently at the Chateau Marmont. Pity hugs and paparazzi dreams. The smell of lavender and eucalyptus floated through the Richards Encino home, masked faintly by the bitterness of espresso and yesterday's tears. It was late afternoon, and a cloud-dappled Los Angeles sky pressed down like a wool blanket. In the kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator was the only sound until the front door opened. Kyle stood at the kitchen island, stiffening slightly. She didn't turn around. "Hey," came the voice she had known for 27 years, Mauricio's. She still didn't turn. "Can we talk?" he asked, gently. Kyle ran a finger down the rim of her coffee mug, studying the faint lipstick stain she'd left behind. The kitchen looked pristine but felt haunted. Every corner echoed with memories. Homework battles, tequila toasts, dance parties with the girls in their pajamas. Now, silence. "I guess," she said, her voice low. Mauricio walked in and set his keys on the counter, a casual gesture, one that once meant, "I'm home." Now it just felt like a visitor unpacking too quickly. He wore his usual jeans and a white button-up rolled at the sleeves. He looked older than he did a year ago, so did she. Kyle finally turned, leaning against the counter. Her makeup was minimal today, but her eyes betrayed her. "So," he began, I didn't want to come here and not address it. The photo." There it was, not even a sentence, just the photo, the elephant that had bulldozed through every text thread, every Bravo headline, every quiet moment in her day. Kyle let out a breath and folded her arms. "You mean the one in Greece, with Nikita?" Mauricio nodded, looking down. "Yeah, right," she said, as if reminding herself. "That one." "I'm sorry," he said. I would never want to hurt you or the girls. I didn't do it to be cruel. We've been living apart for a while, and I thought." "We were single," Kyle finished. Her voice was calm, practiced. "You didn't cheat." He looked up. "But I still hurt you." Silence stretched between them. The air was heavy with unsaid things. "I'm not mad," she said, swallowing. "I just didn't expect to see it like that." In the middle of the day, while ordering groceries on Instacart, he gave a sad smile. That bad. That bad. Then he did something she didn't expect. He stepped closer, arms slightly out. A hug, not pleading, not passionate. Just there, awkward, apologetic. Kyle allowed it, her arms wrapped around him slowly, hesitantly, but something inside her recoiled. The scent of his cologne, once comforting, now smelled like a stranger's. She blinked rapidly. "Don't cry, not again, not in his arms." But she did, and he held her gently, patting her back like a father consoling a child. His lips pressed to the side of her head, but it wasn't intimate. It wasn't romantic. It was distant. A pity hug. 2 weeks later, Garcelle Beauvais adjusted her microphone as she settled into the velvet chair across from Andy Cohen on Watch What Happens Live. The studio lights were bright, but the buzz in the air was brighter. Social media was still ablaze from the latest WWHL episode, and Kyle's tears had become the gif of the week. Andy smiled at her. "Okay, Garcelle," he began. "Let's get into it. You watched the episode like the rest of us. Kyle and Mauricio's kitchen scene. What was your reaction?" Garcelle sighed. "You know, Andy, I think we've all known a couple who's held on longer than they should." Watching that moment, it was like, she paused, choosing her words carefully. It felt like the end. Andy raised an eyebrow. "You don't think there's hope?" "I don't," she said. "I know that sounds harsh, but it didn't feel like a hug you give someone you want back. It felt like a pity hug, and it broke my heart." The audience murmured and nodded. Some clapped. Garcelle went on, "Every time he touches her now, it's like he's saying goodbye. And she's pretending she doesn't notice, but she does. She feels it." Andy tilted his head. "Do you think Kyle's friendship with Morgan Wade has something to do with that distance?" Garcelle hesitated, then smirked. "I think Kyle's redefining who she is. She's in a new chapter, and maybe she's still figuring out the title." 1 week later, Aspen. The cabin in Aspen had always been Kyle's favorite escape. Snow-covered pines, hot cocoa, and quiet. But now the silence was unnerving. Morgan Wade sat cross-legged on the leather couch, strumming an acoustic guitar absent-mindedly. Her tattoos peeked out from under a worn sweatshirt, her voice low as she hummed. Kyle stood at the window, watching snow flurry past. She had told herself that this trip was for clarity, but clarity was elusive. "Do you want to talk about it?" Morgan asked without looking up. Kyle turned. "About what?" "The hug." Kyle laughed bitterly. "Oh God, you saw it?" Morgan nodded. Everyone did. She set the guitar aside. "You looked like you were grieving a ghost." Kyle sat down beside her. "Maybe I am." Morgan leaned forward, elbows on her knees. "You still love him." "I'll always love him," Kyle said. "But I don't think I'm in love with him. Not anymore." Morgan said nothing. Instead, she offered her hand. Kyle took it. It was warm, solid. Not a pity hug, not a goodbye. Back in Les, Mauricio sat at the Chateau Marmont rooftop, a glass of mezcal in hand. He was laughing too loudly at something a brunette across the table had said. Her name was Eva or Ella, he couldn't remember. His phone buzzed. A photo of the two of them already circulating online. He sighed. It wasn't that he didn't care. It's just that pretending not to care had become easier. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from his oldest daughter. "Are you okay, Dad? Mom saw the pic. Just be mindful, okay?" He stared at it for a long time. Then typed back, "Yeah, I'm okay. Tell her I didn't mean to hurt her." The reunion. Weeks later, the cast gathered for that RHOBH reunion. Tension buzzed beneath every sequin. Andy looked across the half-moon of couches, ready for blood, or at least closure. "Kyle," he said, If you could tell Mauricio one thing right now, what would it be? Kyle blinked, emotions crowding her expression. I'd say thank you, she said slowly. For the years, the memories, the family we built. But I'd also say, let's stop pretending we're not breaking. Garcelle reached for her hand. Andy turned. Mauricio's not here tonight, but he did send in a message. He played the video. Mao's face appeared, filmed from his office. I love Kyle. I always will. But sometimes, love changes. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is let someone go. Kyle looked down, tears brimming, but no longer for what was lost, for what was finally let go. 1 year later, Kyle stood barefoot in her backyard, arms outstretched as she embraced the warm California sun. A book of poetry lay on the chair beside her. Inside the house, laughter rang out, her daughters, visiting for the weekend. Mauricio had moved to West Hollywood, building his next chapter. Morgan had gone back on tour. Garcelle had just signed a book deal. And Kyle? She was writing again, journals filled with the mess of healing. Her kitchen was hers again, not haunted, but sacred. A notification buzzed on her phone, an Instagram comment from a fan. You look happier than ever. She smiled, snapped a selfie with the caption. Happier doesn't always mean whole, but it means I'm growing. And just like that, the past folded itself quietly behind her. No more pity hugs, only forward motion.